Welcome to Will Work for Food. Today is Thursday, September 26th, 2024, and we're so happy to have you here with us. It's a special treat today. Natalie and I will be talking, and we really are happy that you decided to come. As most of you would know, there is no charge for these programs. Every week at this time, 8 a.m. Pacific, we are blessed by the presence of a speaker, one of our colleagues, an amazing colleague who would tell us about something of interest to the process or the of settlement negotiations. And today Natalie and I are stepping in, so it is great. Natalie, Jeff's not here today, but he always does say that one of the special things he loves so much is when the amount of money that has been raised in lieu of a fee, donations to food banks. How much in donations have we been told about?
Hi, good morning, Jean. Good morning, everybody joining. So far, we have raised $617,819.02 to food banks around the world. We greatly appreciate your support of your local food bank. Today, Jean and I are hoping that you will consider donating to the World Central Kitchen, WCK.org. The work they do is absolutely amazing. Depending on your food bank's buying power, a single dollar donation is a value of 10 meals to people who are struggling with food security. So please, if you can donate a dollar, donate a dollar. If you don't have a dollar to donate, consider donating an hour of your time at your local food bank.
And so 600 and some $1,000, that translates to more than 6 million meals, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, can do this. It's morning in my part of the world here today. So anyway, so let's get to it. First of all, let me introduce Natalie Armstrong Motin to any of you who may not know her. It's fitting that she gave us this number today because she is the founder of Will Work for Food, the New Possibilities Hour. She is a founder and managing director of Marketing Resolution. She's the author of The Essential Guide to Marketing Your ADR Practice. She speaks frequently around the globe on successful marketing strategies for the resolution and legal industry, and as a personal consultant to many of the premier providers in the ADR industry, I'm sure, including to many of us who are on this call or the Zoom here this morning. She has received certificates in both mediation and arbitration from the Institute of Conflict Management and International Mediation from both Tulane University School of Law and Humboldt University School of Law in Berlin, Germany. She's received more than 150 hours in training in numerous national and international mediation, arbitration, and communication courses. Her professional education background is in conflict resolution, sociology, and criminal psychology. So she is everywhere. You see her in American Bar Association. You can find her with Marketing Monday, which is something she does every Monday at, I think it's 8 a.m. Pacific time. Yes. And there's no charge for that, and gives wonderful advice. Her website is howtomarketmymediationpractice.com. And just thank you, Natalie, for this concept, this idea. We all like to think that we can make a difference in the world in our small ways. Well, this small way turned into a big way. So we're all very happy to that. And kudos to you. Jeff Kachavin is not here with us today, my co-moderator. And Natalie, I thought, what the heck, this is a good time for us to, let's talk about making a transition into mediation or arbitration as a career, and what you have to do. You know, it's that time of year, it's fall. People start thinking about changes as of the new year. And whether it's this year for you to make the leap, whether it's never, or whether it's, maybe you'll end up being a few years down the road, it's always good to have different thoughts in mind. So what we'll cover today, basically can be boiled down into 3 words, I'd say. Build your practice, or have it, and then maintain it. So build it, have it, maintain it. That said, Natalie, let's talk about building. Let's building your practice. So, somebody wants to be a mediator. They're tired of maybe practicing law or whatever their practice is. Maybe they're even a young person that's coming out of college and law school, specializing in ADR. And it's certainly not limited to being a second career for people. What is it you see when people come to you about making a career change?
Well, I think most often when people contact me, Jean, it is that they want to not retire, but sort of rewire what they're doing. I don't get a lot of young people who are just out of university or a peer mediation program. So most people are like you. You spent 30 years in big law, one of the biggest names in insurance litigation. And you didn't want to retire. You just wanted to rewire what you were doing and use that expertise to help people and, stay with a similar conversation pattern. I think that's what I get most often. Most of the time when people are looking to rewire or transition into the resolution industry, I think they're surprised when I start talking about the simple basics of creating a neutral practice for themselves. And so for each of us, it's going to be a little different. You have to think about, are you going to keep your day job? Are you going to stop what you're doing and move into the ADR realm? Those are very different positions if you're going to transition slowly over time. So let's imagine, Jean, that you contacted me and you said, Natalie, in 2 years, I'm going to retire from big law and I want to build a mediation practice. You and I would talk about some of the following things. For example, it takes 3 to 5 years to build a full-time practice. So that's a pretty long ramp to get into a full-time practice. And you can, jump in and tell us how long your transition was, but that seems to be about average. Before you even get there, though, you need to think about, if you're staying with your current job, what is that company or that firm's position on you having a side gig? Some firms are great, some not so great. Some companies forbid it, some are fine with it. So you need to figure out what your position is. And then you want to think about what you want your practice to look like, and then sort of reverse engineer it from there. So, Jean, you've built a really bespoke practice for yourself, and that was very intentional. You went at it with strategy. But that's not going to be true for all of us. Some of us are going to create a practice that is more about access to justice, for example. So you've got to pick and choose what your position in the marketplace is going to be. That will dictate the prices that you charge. You also want to think about the basic things of having a business, and that is, what are you going to name it? Will you be online or in person only? What will your tax structure be? Are you going to be an LLC or a DBA? All of those kinds of things need to occur. How was it for you when you made those choices, Jean?
Well, it maybe was a little less strategic than you might think. I just knew I wanted to mediate. I actually took my mediation training class back in 2007, in January, February of 2007, and did not leave my law firm until the end of 2016. I had thought that I could probably build a mediation practice in the firm, but I couldn't. There were too many conflicts, and there was just too much work. Otherwise, my regular trial work, litigation work, coverage work, and so that didn't happen. But when I decided that it was time for me to go, if you will, to transition over into a mediation practice, I must admit, here I am in Los Angeles. I just made an assumption I'd be in with a mediation group, probably. I'd use them as well as independent mediators when I was in practice, and I just made that assumption. Well, that may work in places, in your communities, And maybe it would work for someone really special here in Los Angeles. But essentially what I was told was that we're not, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, we're not here to help you build your practice. We're here to help you take you to the next level once you have built a practice. Oh, okay, fine. So that, was like a little bit of a turn then, and what I'm, and how I'm going to do it. But I'm so happy that I'm independent, just as an example. I'm sure I'd be happy if I was in with a group at this point, but I'm very happy having the flexibility. And when I looked at it first, I wanted to make sure I had the credentials. I've always been big on credentials. I mean, I was in practice for 37 years before making the jump or the leap, so to speak. And it really is, I would say, a leap of faith. You really have to be an entrepreneur. And that is true whether you're in with a mediation company or, firm, or independent, because the truth is you are independent, no matter where you hang your shingle and how you hang it. And so it's up to you to both make sure you have credibility as I'll just say mediator for right now, but as a mediator, that you have the credentials, that people know you've the temperament. I was interested in how people responded when I told them then that I'd started my practice and what I was doing, and how many people then said, you have a good temperament for that. I can see that, or, things I hadn't even necessarily thought about as such at the time. I retired from my firm where I'd been for 31 and plus years at the time, as of December 31st. So I was starting out at the beginning of 2017 is what it was for me. And I sent handwritten notes to people. I sent emails to people with links to my CV or the website. I mean, I spent a lot of time on the website, and much to my husband's chagrin, I will admit, he's like, please just whatever, I don't know, but stop focusing on this website so much. LinkedIn, get yourself on LinkedIn. You have to be visible. You have to be out there. And I'd always spoken and written, was very, very visible, and had a very good practice over the years, lots of connections. And so I applied those same processes, if you will, to this new business, because it's really a business that you're getting started. I went the LLC route. You've got to figure out your bank accounts, find one ideally, if you can, that doesn't charge a fee for your banking. And then how are you going to keep track of things? When you're in your business or law firm, every new matter is entered into a computer system. And I promise you, please do keep track of your case lists, your cases. You will need it for running conflicts later on. You will never remember everybody you ever worked with or every case that you ever had, or they'll all just kind of blend together maybe at sometimes after a while. So you absolutely need to have some sort of case management system in addition to whatever your financial management system is. I use QuickBooks, and I use the desktop version for years, and then recently changed to the online one. So whatever database system you're comfortable with is what you need to do. I had created a spreadsheet for my, well, not a spreadsheet, a what would you call it? Like a questionnaire for myself. And then we filled in the answers, and then that went into a database. And I use something that's called Wufoo, and I use that because it's part of it's WFOO, and that's part of the question one. It's a U.S. business, and with all of the privacy things going on and the European guidelines and all, I just felt that was better. So that's another thing that I was focusing on. What are my various technological resources that I'm going to use? And I must admit, I just, to a certain extent, went by what we had used in the law firm and signed up for several of these. Well, using them in a law firm with 100 or more, whatever attorneys is very different than what a sole practitioner would really need if you're starting this business. Personally, I found that Office 365 works just great. There are just so many different technical programs, though, an online calendar to think about, just your email system, getting templates in place. I had copied and saved a lot of them that I had been handling and then created my own. So there's just a lot from setting up the business, from, like Natalie said, getting it set up with the proper corporate status and filed and recorded, and your Secretary of State or your state bar, getting insurance. If you happen to be a lawyer, and you might check this out even if you're not, if you're a student or something, there's the Association of Attorney Mediators. It's based out of Texas. And I found, when I was looking for my E&O malpractice insurance, just, felt comfortable that I should make sure that I had that, it's included, a group policy is included as part of your annual dues, or your annual fee. And it's $275, I think, at this point, to become a member of AAM. So it's a great organization anyway, but that's a nice benefit of that. I don't think you can find, insurance for mediators and arbitrators quite that inexpensive elsewhere. And again, it's a group policy, not an individual policy. Those are just a few of the things. I approached it from a very business-like standpoint, and probably overcompensated for all the forms I created, et cetera, but it all ended up working out fine. And things that I didn't use, I really looked at that at the end of the year and said, well, forget it. I don't use that. Or now I'm more familiar with what apps are out there that I can use. And we'll get into some of the programs and all that are now available that weren't available when I started. But it's a business you're starting. And yes, I was told the 3 to 5 years before you start making money, to be able to support yourself. And I, of course, said, oh, that won't be me. What do you mean? 2 to 3 years, maybe. And, it comes along. And I would say 3 to 5 years is probably relatively accurate to actually be self-supporting. And people will say, make sure you've got some money or a form of support there to be able to support yourself while you're building this, because it won't happen overnight. Overnight is a different time period for people, and maybe it will for you. And if it does, that's fantastic.
Well, and I think, part of being able to speed up that process is leveraging what you have built for yourself already. So if you've spent, 20 years as a real estate broker, or you are a registered nurse, or you're an educator, whatever your background is, you leverage that to make it work best for you as a neutral practitioner. So you're dealing with the same conversations. You already know where you're going to be networking. You know who the most likely people are to hire you directly or to be a source of referral for you. But leveraging what you've done and just reintroducing yourself into that world will definitely speed things up. You also likely have already built yourself up to be a credible authority on a specific topic matter. And that's going to really play well into your hand. That's going to be really important. I think, too, one of the important things that we have to think about is not just how to leverage that, but how to rework our mindset away from litigation and now into resolution, or away from brokering real estate deals and now into resolution, or away from education and now into resolution. And that's not always the easiest transition for my clients. Some people really, really struggle with that. So it's important to not only network and be involved in those groups that are most likely to hire you, but it's also important to join those groups that support us as neutrals. so that we keep that mindset always working in the background. So those are important things always to keep in mind. And I think for a lot of us, it's always a good exercise. Whether you've been a neutral for decades or you're brand new to it, go through the exercise of creating a business plan or a marketing plan for yourself so that you can really get the descriptors down, so that you can really get the fine pieces down. And I think when you go through these exercises, one of the things that you'll hopefully discover is how to create an appropriate niche for yourself. And I frequently get people who call and say, well, as a litigator, I did the following 50 kinds of cases. And I want to be able to mediate the following 50 kinds of cases, which is fine. You can absolutely do all of those. But for the purposes of business building and marketing yourself, it is so much more easy. It's so much more manageable, and it makes more return on your investment when you can focus on one or maybe two specialties in the promotion of your practice. So if Jean called and said, Natalie, I want to have a practice where I mediate construction cases, real estate cases, traumatic brain injury cases, insurance cases, national parks, all of these different kinds of cases, I would say, sure, Jean, I'm sure you've got the skills to be able to do that. But for purposes of business development and marketing, let's choose one or maybe two things that are in some way connected one to the other. They need to be kissing cousins, so to speak, so that you are attending just those networking events. You're following just those podcasts, just those YouTube channels. You're reading just those periodicals, because you otherwise will have spread yourself so thin that it just becomes unmanageable, and it becomes frustrating, and it becomes unsatisfying. So of course you can take all of those other cases, but for purposes of business, you really want to focus on one, maybe two things. And when you build out a marketing plan or a business plan for yourself, you'll be asking yourself those kinds of questions, and you'll be able to really focus on what it is you want to do. And maybe you want to focus on the thing that's most profitable, or maybe you want to focus on the thing that you're most passionate about. You want to have those conversations every day that give you deep pleasure, or that, keep that little curiosity, going in the back of your brain. What really makes you happy? Because these are the kinds of conversations and cases that you're going to have day in, day out, hopefully for years and years and years in your practice. So those are some of the So those are some of the foundational pieces you have to have. Of course, you have to have a website. You have to be on social media. There are some of those basic things that you need as foundational pieces, but you already know that. You're sophisticated folks. You don't need us to tell you that. So next, Jean, let's talk about, you've got a bit of business built up. How did that happen? And how do you have a practice that requires you to have mediation or arbitration as your day job, and then market and promote yourself at night? It's really two jobs at the same time. How do you manage that?
It's a labor of love, I think, really. Back to one of your comments, I was told by someone in the dispute resolution industry, and it wasn't Natalie, it was somebody else who said to me this, and this stuck, obviously, I'm still repeating it here. Judges can be generalists in terms of taking, what cases they can handle or what mediation. But attorneys who are not judges, or anybody who hasn't been a judge, cannot be a generalist. You need to have your niche, or your niche, as Natalie was saying. And your niche doesn't have to be exactly what you've been doing for 20 years. It can be, and it's a good springboard, but it's a new business, and it's a new world. Maybe all those people that were your go-to colleagues or clients or whatever, maybe they won't be able to use you. Maybe, disclosures or conflicts or whatever. There might be some of those things, and you're really going out to try and build essentially a new business. And it's a wonderful time if you want to pivot. into something else. I often think that there is about a 10-year cycle, give or take, for new and emerging areas of the law. And even when I was in practice, and now especially as a mediator, I look to stay ahead of, or at least keep up with, what are the new things that are coming out, and where is the future in terms of dispute litigation. Certainly disputes are with us, it's just part of living, but have laws changed that will then create a new area for disputes that will need settling and resolution, new lawsuits, new theories of liability or exposure for some reason. And all the technological advances are an excellent way of as an example of showing this. With all the privacies, is the ransomware, and that all evolves. So I say keep an eye out for that, and remember, this is a business, and it may be the last business you start in your life, maybe not, but do what you have a passion for and what you would love doing. I don't know if I directly answered your question, Natalie, but in a roundabout way, maybe.
I think that's a good start. So one of the questions in the chat, Jean, is that the question is, most mediators who advertise seem to be former litigators or judges. Is there a basis for a non-litigator to work in this space? I think when we're talking about trends, absolutely. One of the trends that we're seeing globally is that some cases are perfect for ex-litigators who are now neutrals. But a lot of cases really require someone who is from the transactional end of things. So in-house counsel, for example, in-house counsel make fantastic neutrals. The other is if, for example, Jean mentioned tech. If you've got a background in tech, whatever it might be, those are the kinds of cases that you want to be hearing, because no one wants to train a mediator in the language, in the industry, in the expectations, in the relationships, in the culture of all of those things. They want someone who really knows what they're talking about and can help them reach that settlement. So more and more often, we see non-attorneys doing really, really well, and non-litigators, even if they have a legal background, doing really, really well. So I think, I hope that answers that question, but absolutely, there is room for all of us. And like Jean said, when you're choosing your niche, it doesn't have to be what you've done. I had a client who spent decades as an employment labor law lawyer, but his passion was all things to do with wine. And he even became a sommelier just for fun. And he, after a little nudging, let me start building a practice for him that was all wine disputes, bottling, labeling, contracts, vine rustling, all of those kinds of things. And he absolutely loves the practice that we've built, because that's where his passion lies, is in all things wine. So you don't always have to follow what you've been doing, but he did have, again, credibility and authority amongst litigators. He had a name, he had his own, brand, so to speak, and that is important. So now to do the actual work, one of the questions in the chat, Jean, is what kind of certification you need. And I think it's a mediator's answer, and that answer is it depends. For most of us, litigators in particular have hired mediators and arbitrators, so you kind of have a sense of what it is a neutral does. So you can choose for yourself. If you happen to be, like me, addicted to education and you're curious and you like classes, knock yourself out, go for the LLM. They're expensive, they're time consumptive, and they're generally not necessary. For most of us, it's a 40-hour course that is the minimum requirement. Depending on your state, Tennessee, for example, you have to be Rule 31 certified. Florida has different certifications. And then if you want to be international, then you'll want to consider the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators or Chartered Institute of Mediators. So depending on where you want to go, where you want to practice, look at those kinds of classes. But for most of us, a 40-hour class is sufficient. And then again, if you're belonging to the organizations that support our industry, they regularly offer CLEs, they regularly offer programs that will help you stay abreast of things, keep your certification active, get your continuing education credits, etc. So, Jean, one of the things that we want to talk about is whether or not you can do this work part-time. Do you have to go all in, or can you just be a part-timer?
You can work as much or as little as you want, I have learned, as a mediator. I must admit, coming out straight out of a law firm where you'd worked a gazillion hours, I was thinking, oh yeah, 5 days a week, on and on. But surprisingly enough, yes, you can absolutely work part-time. And that's the beauty of this, is you can call your shots. I know there is a mediator out of Hawaii when I was in practice. He would mediate 1 week a month. He'd come to the mainland. If you wanted to go to Hawaii, which, why not? But if you wanted to go to Hawaii, understanding was that he would, book you in, but he worked 1 week a month. If you want to schedule your days so that you don't work on, Mondays and Fridays, or you only work Tuesdays, Thursdays, or, whatever it might be, you can absolutely do that. And it's nobody has to know what that crossed off date means. It's just that you're not available that day. And as your practice gets busier, you might open up some of those days. But yes, you can have, it's a great career and job to have, where you can work as much or as little as you want, and of course, as people will hire you. So let's see, we did have a couple of other things, on the training. I personally went to Pepperdine. I'm in Los Angeles, so it was convenient. There are different trainings in different places. There is no one certification in the United States that is the certification for mediators. It's definitely not limited to bar cards. There are many mediators who are not lawyers, thinking nurses, some educators, former claims representatives and insurance companies. I've been approached by them. If you're really going, or you're debating if this is for you, contact a mediator and ask if you can shadow them, is something you might do. I just had someone shadowing me this week, and it was a wonderful experience for her and for me and for the lawyers involved and the client and the parties. Everybody seemed to get involved in wanting to make sure that she had a good experience about it. But you just are quiet. And now with Zoom, you can shadow somebody from anywhere. When I was starting out, I had 2 different mediators that I knew because I had used them or became acquainted with them. And those were in person at that time. They let me, shadow them, and even gave me some jobs to do in the sense of, read this and what do you think of that, and that sort of thing. So that is a great way to also get your feet wet, and to do it even after you've become a mediator. All you have to do to be a mediator, well, being one and saying you're one, I guess, 2 different things, perceptions, everything. You can hang that shingle out and voila, so-and-so, mediator, whatever. And then you find the work to come in, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're hanging the shingle first between the website, LinkedIn, business cards. I still would get business cards. Sorry, it's a little old-fashioned, but whether you're exchanging them on your phones at conferences or something, still have a business card. It's nice to give to somebody. And then just, build on what you had. I do think we have other questions in here. Let's see. How to be qualified. You don't have to go to those programs that I mentioned, like Pepperdine. Harvard has an excellent program as well, but it does give you, street cred, so to speak, and an excellent education. And some states offer their own training programs as well. Is the market so too saturated to really make a good mediation practice? No, I would say no. It's not too saturated. As someone said to me also, you know, you really, if you even have 5 or 10 law firms that send you business, or a source, a funnel for business, several sources, because you can never just count on one, obviously. You know, you can make a fine practice, and then word gets around. I was advised to apply to serve as a mediator on the United States District Court's federal panel here at the federal district court here in Los Angeles. And I did, and I was accepted. And so I've been on that since August of 2017. And that was a great way to get experience, have a wide variety of cases you wouldn't have otherwise, and then also to have some visibility and to meet some people. And somebody here asked about visibility. Let's see. It's so many ways. There are so many ways to be visible. You know, there's the social media aspect, and Natalie is a pro at that. But then there's the traditional ways of just talking to people. And I personally have gone through, you know, being very expansive, and I do my business plan for the next year, see what worked or didn't, and then kind of bringing it in a little bit and focusing just on more on local people. But I will tell you, thanks to LinkedIn, well, number one, over the times many of you I've met, I met Natalie on LinkedIn, and I have personally gotten business thanks to the connections that I met on LinkedIn. I would never underestimate the power and the extent of LinkedIn, and I would highly recommend using that to, you know, post or write articles, go to the conferences if you can, and, you know, focus again on what the area is, geographic as well as the topic. So Natalie, that's let's see, what time are we? That's pretty much building and having, and then you've got to maintain it. Well, now we've pretty much moved into maintaining.
Yeah. So I think the way that you actively build your practice, Jean, you happen to be really good at a handful of ways to build business. For most of us, it boils down to essentially 5 things: writing, speaking, networking, training, and then all of those things are supported with social media. The one that you really can't replace is networking. And the reason is because most people hire us when, first, they know we exist. Second, they like us, and that only comes with interaction. And lastly, they have to have a sense that they can trust us. So networking is the one thing you really can't skip over. That's really the most important. It can be supported on social media. But if you're a really good writer, write, have a blog, publish your newsletter on LinkedIn, send it out to the various publications that your potential clients read, get your articles published. Articles are fabulous because they're evergreen and you can keep recycling them through your social media. Public speaking is a great way to build your brand and get known. It happens to be one of my favorite ways. And the reason is just basic entrepreneurship. If Jean stands, you know, downtown at the Biltmore in Los Angeles, and she gives a fabulous speech to 100 attorneys that are most likely to hire her, she will have said all of the right things, but she may not have said it to the right person at the right time. So if there's 100 people in the room, 100 of them will applaud. Thank you so much for your time and experience and your sharing, Jean. But to 5 of those people, maybe 10 of those people, she will have said exactly the right thing at exactly the right time. Those 10 people then approach her at the podium. So those 10 people have pre-qualified themselves as being most likely to hire her. And now Jean, as a business person, isn't ignoring the other 90 people, but she can really hyper-focus on working with those 10 people that are most likely to hire her at that point in time. Another way to build your brand and get well known is to provide a training. And I know it seems counterintuitive to train up other people to do what we do, or, you know, let them peek behind the curtain and learn some of the verbal judo skills that we use on a daily basis. But most people that take your training are not really going to become your competition. Plus, you've got more time invested, you're way farther ahead in the game. But training is really important, because when somebody has an issue, when they have a problem, when there's something that they need help with, the first person they think about is the person who trained them up. with those skills. And that can be you. That keeps you top of mind. And again, just like with networking, speaking, writing, training, everything is supported on social media. For most of us, that's going to be LinkedIn. It's the largest social media platform, and it is where professionals are. Now, you do have to be active on these platforms in the same way that you're active networking, writing, speaking, or training. You have to be active. True engagement is what it's all about. So if you just log on and read everybody's thread, well, that's great for you. You may have learned something. You're sort of kept up to date on the news, but it's the actual interaction, the engagement on these platforms that really matters, because you're trying to build a dialogue. You're trying to build that interpersonal business relationship. You're trying to prove up that you're really great at what you're doing, right? So being active. So don't just log on, reach out and invite those people that are your potential client to connect with you. Send them a message when they accept your invitation, engage with them and post. Now, posting isn't marketing. Networking, writing, speaking, training, that's marketing. Social media posts keep you top of mind. You can educate, you can do all of those things, but really posting just keeps you present, right? It supports the other things that you're doing. So the first four, that's truly marketing. The last one, because it's a service, right? We're not selling coffee cups or t-shirts. That's in support of the marketing that you do, right? But so LinkedIn is really where we're at. And Jean, let's move the conversation to maintaining all of this work that we've built for ourselves. You've got a great reputation. You've got the right training. Your website is gorgeous. You have figured out how to integrate sort of old school techniques to market and promote yourself along with high tech. So you send out holiday cards. Plus, you've got business cards to exchange, but you also maybe have the QR code to your LinkedIn profile on your phone. Or maybe you use AI to help you market, promote, put together a production calendar. There are lots of different ways that you can make it easier for yourself to maintain a practice. One of the things I know that you have found most helpful is learning how to let go of some of the controls and delegate. And I think I don't get anything for saying this. This is not a sponsored ad of any sort. I don't own any part of Nikki Safavi's business. But if you contact Case Manager Services, Inc., they handle all of the phone calls, all of the intake, all of the billing, all of those kinds of things. And Jean will tell you, yeah, it takes a lot of trust to turn over your business to somebody, but learning how to delegate your social media account or your convening, those are things that are truly invaluable. You want to add to that a little bit, Jean?
Sure. I cannot say with enough gratefulness in my voice how much it has helped me and my practice by having now 2 years this particular person, Nikki Safavi, but wherever you are in the world, there's probably a business there where they'll do the case management for you. Or again, you don't have to be local to have somebody do it for you. It just freed me up because as an independent starting up, you don't have somebody to answer your phones necessarily. I subscribe to an answering service. Call Ruby was the name of the one that I subscribe to, but there are many. And Ruby would answer, there are many Rubies at this company. They would answer my phone, they would take messages or pass it on to me, transfer the call to me. But then it meant that I was always on. And, you could be in the middle of something or not, and then having to do all my own paperwork, the confirmation emails, the forms for people to sign or not, etc. And that is the part. And then the billing, oh goodness, that was just not my favorite part of the job. To get all of that out takes a lot of time. And so if you can find somebody who will be able to provide that service, and most of them, when they do, there are several like this, and when they do it, they either do it on a flat, well, they do it on a flat per mediation that gets scheduled basis. Okay, so you're not necessarily paying a secretary or a case manager or an assistant to sit in your office, you know, as an employee. But whether it's a flat fee that you pay them on a per mediation basis that they schedule, or a percentage that's acceptable to you, it is well worth looking into something like that. And, you know, if you have to do it yourself to begin with, then that's fine too. That's the way that starting a business goes, right? But yes, that kind of thing is fantastic. And then, you know, automating things as much as possible so that you don't recreate the wheel every time. Whatever your forms are going to be, you know, get them set and then stop going back and changing them all the time. Maybe periodically you realize that something needs to be changed, but you know, I would say look at your processes on an annual basis, just like you look at your financials on an annual basis. Sit down and do your marketing plan on an annual basis, check in at mid-year, maybe even quarterly, you know, to see how that's coming along. Which conferences do you want to attend? Do you want to exhibit or not? Do you want to sponsor or not? Do you want to put an ad in the magazine that comes out for whatever your particular area of interest is for that organization? I have tried them all probably, or at least a lot of them. And at times have then decided, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. But you just find what works for you to reach your target market. And then that helps maintain the business, because being a mediator is a wonderful, wonderful career path. No matter if you're getting into it straight out of school or as a second career or mid-career, whatever it might be, mediators are really nice people too. When you know, the competition is not quite as cutthroat as you might find in the business world, and they're happy to help you. And I'm so glad that I made the transition. Now you have to figure out what's the right time and place for you to do that, obviously. But I don't think you would regret making the jump and having that leap of faith. I was looking here. Oh, an online calendar. We haven't mentioned that. I highly recommend it. And I know Natalie does. There are a number of them. What was the one, Natalie, that you use?
Acuity or Calendly.
Yeah.
So if you're not a member of, for example, the National Association of Distinguished Neutrals, that has a brilliant online calendaring system, or AAA, if you don't have, you know, a panel that's helping you to manage your calendar, you can set up your own very inexpensively with Calendly or Acuity scheduling, and they're both absolutely invaluable. You know, you could use AI to help you integrate a Google Calendar, whatever works best for your clients. So it's not always what works best for us. It needs to be primarily what's best for our clients, and then we adjust.
Make it easy for them to find you and to hire you and to know when you're available. You know, in this world today, people work 24/7 and all times of the day or night, really. And if you can, I'm a big fan of an online calendar, and I do have one. And the thing that well, and I've had a couple different variations of it too. I'm a member now of the National Academy of Distinguished Neutrals, and that to me is the best calendar around. But that type of calendar is great. Another thing I did when I was starting out, and this goes back to my concept of wanting to make sure I have credentials, because I certainly had credentials in my law practice. And I wanted whatever credentials I needed as a mediator to augment those, you know, et cetera, or to start from scratch. I actually sat down and researched what mediation organizations that were out there, and like what would be the top tier, what did I want to become a member of eventually. And the National Academy of Distinguished Neutrals was one of those. You have to be in practice for 5 years first, and they've got their own requirements, but there are others as well, you know. But where are the top people in your field going when they go to conferences or meetings. And again, not that you're going to necessarily get business from them, but it is a once a year kind of gathering for ideas and concepts and things is great. But again, holding yourself to the outside world, what do they see? And what's the perception? And what's the reality actually ideally matches perception. I know there's several questions here, Natalie, in the chat.
Let's talk about some basic things to maintain your practice and make it easier for you. If you need to find an association or an organization and you're not really sure where to start, go to directoryofassociations.com and you can search by practice specialty or by geography. There are tens of thousands listed, and maybe expand, go try a different group. So that's a good one. Another resource that I use for myself and for my clients to create graphics and calendars is Canva, C-A-N-V-A, canva.com. This is where you can create a website. It's AI driven. You can create all of your social media posts. You can calendar them out. You can record video on Canva. There's a lot of really great aspects to having a Canva account. There's a free version and then there's a paid version. The pro version is definitely worth it. It's about the price of 2 cups of coffee at Starbucks for a month. I think it's $12 US per month. It's absolutely worth it. The other question I get a lot is whether or not it's valuable to have the LinkedIn professional level account. There are a few benefits to it. One is you have the ability to analyze your engagement. And so if you're a geek, you can look to see which of your posts are really resonating when you're posting on a specific day or a specific time. You have a lot of different things. You can leave out of office, messages for your messenger. I mean, there's a lot of different benefits, but at, almost $60 a month, it's not necessary. You can just have a personal page and that will work just great. Some other resources you might think about are lots of AI opportunities. I happen to be a big fan of AI and I use it a lot for all kinds of things. If I'm trying to write an article and I've got a deadline for the ABA Law Practice Journal, and there's just a blinking screen in front of me, I can put into AI some of the ideas I have and ask it to give me some outlines. And that gives me a jumping off place to start writing, editing, and make the article my own. I use AI to fact check. I use AI, as I'm typing along and I can't remember a time zone. I can talk to the AI and she answers me and I just keep typing along. I keep scheduling that way. I use it for reminders. So a million years ago when I started business, we all had what were called, sort of a tickle file. AI handles all of that. Let's say you're trying WooFoo that Jean was talking about, and you get a 30-day free trial. Set your AI to remind you to cancel that in 28 days or continue on with the subscription. So you can use AI in lots of ways. You can use AI to create spreadsheets. You can use AI to perform A/B testing for concepts or strategies. You can use AI to help you create an out-of-office reply. You can use AI for so many different things. It will create an entire production calendar for you. There's so many things that you can use AI for. And again, I recommend the pro version. So for example, if you use ChatGPT, the free one is okay. The $20 per month fee for the pro version is a massive step up in quality response. And it's like any technology that we use it more, learn more, engage more. You learn how to prompt it. The answers get better. It's a garbage in, garbage out system. So it does take a little bit of practice, but I find it to be absolutely invaluable. And then also, if you are in a position to join a panel, and if you want to send me a message, I'll send you an Excel spreadsheet. There are about 500 various rosters in the United States. Join some of the panels, do some pro bono work. One, it's kind of our social obligation as humans. Two, you get the experience that you need, or you get put on one of the high-end panels where the salary is quite nice. What am I missing, Jean? What do we need to talk about in our last 4 minutes? Other than, please go to the Central World Kitchen and make a donation to that food bank or your local food bank.
Again, technology, Zapier, Zapier. I used that originally and still do a bit, and it automates it. It lets your different programs talk to each other. So, for example, when a form got filled in on my Wufoo, or the calendar, then it would come to Zapier would then create a file folder for me in Outlook 365, automate my emails that were going to go out to acknowledge it. You can make it so that they either send it directly or they wait. I waited, because I want to fine tune personalize the message. There's just so many things out there. What else? You don't have to spend a lot of money. Really look at your budget and where you're spending the money, and then look at it again after 3-6 months. I made the mistake of signing up for things on an annual basis right off the bat, because on a 12-month basis, it's cheaper. But then if I didn't end up using that service too often, then it really was a waste of money and it wasn't cheaper. So, maybe give things a try for a month or two and see how it goes. The court systems, the pro bono work, I know there's something here in the chat about that. That's a fantastic way to get started, to get experience, so you feel comfortable doing this and get to meet people. And when the federal court panel is pro bono for the first 3 hours, for example, and I know in the chat there's this Resolve in Los Angeles, the courts. So whatever your court system is, that would be good. The spreadsheet, let's see, I'm looking at some questions here real fast. Could you repeat?
Let's talk about using some technology to build.
Okay.
Not all technology has to be tech heavy. For example, my husband has an absolute allergy to technology. He hates it. When it goes wrong, he gets sort of gamer's rage and his brain shuts down and he can't move forward with it. You don't have to be geeky and nerdy to use tech. One of the easiest pieces of technology to use is the technology that you're using right now. Video is one of the greatest ways for you to market and promote yourself. Although it's in a unilateral setting, video allows your prospective clients to see your face, hear your voice, understand that you know what you're talking about. It builds credibility, authority, and relationships. And you have the ability to do it. Turn on your camera and record short videos, long videos, educational videos. You can interview colleagues. You can use video. You can have a YouTube channel. It's free. You only need a Gmail address. And you can use the system that you're using right now to watch this video. If you're on a PC, by the way, you have access to an app on Microsoft that's free. It's called Clipchamp. And Clipchamp is a fabulous app to edit all of your videos. You can put in the chyrons at the bottom. You can put in music. You can add titles. You can add graphics. It has an AI feature. It gives you all the transitions and the fades. Fabulous app, and it's free on your PC. Just open up Clipchamp and you've got it. YouTube channel, free. You're on this program right now, so I know you have the capability. Start talking to your potential clients. Jean, we're at the top of the hour.
We are. Could I just add one thing? You're talking about these resources, when I started doing a podcast, Buzzsprout is where the particular person that I was working with sent me. And I know there's plenty of places, but I'm very happy with Buzzsprout, and it works very nicely too, and is very, very simple to use. There's just so many, and there are groups out there. Was there Fourth Party and ADR Notable? Do your research. There are companies out there that can be your case manager, if you will, depending on what you want. That could be everything from the financial in one package to the workhorse for you to get things done. I think that we're about there. We're happy to take questions anytime. Feel free to email us or, email us, I guess, or give us a call, whatever it might be. And it's a wonderful career. I hope your passion, if this is it, that it takes you far and you do good things for people. After all, as a mediator, you're a peacemaker. So thank you so much for being here today. And thanks for donating to World Central Kitchen. We'll see you next week, same time, different speakers, and please follow Will Work for Food. This gives you a great education if you go back over the 4 years of all of these different speakers. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody. And if you've got questions, I'm sorry we didn't have time for a Q&A, please email Jean or myself and we'll get you the best resources we can.
Absolutely. Okay, have a great day, everyone. A great evening wherever you are in the world.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.